Hello, and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox. My name is Alex, and let's continue our Fanart project, Angry Birds vs. Transformers. So today we're going to continue working on pushing illustration further. I'm still in fifth stage of explorational 3D sketching, the whole point of which, again, as a quick recap, is to figure out how these transformers are going to look from every particular angle, because again, we are using them throughout the whole scene, and again, they're not our primary focus, but still we need to focus on them almost as on our primary focus, because it's repeated throughout the scene and it kind of becomes important. So yeah, basically this was the whole design of this transformer, and of course we need to redesign them when we are going to apply them into the illustration itself. So of course every statue is going to be a little bit different in design, but the whole point of putting this design into 3D, at least one iteration of this design, is just to basically figure out how this complex form works in 3D space, because come on, it's pretty complex, and like right away imagine all these transitions, it's pretty hard. So to make our job more efficient, that's why we got into ZBrush and actually worked with trying to understand this form in actual 3D space. Because again, the more you understand this 3D space, this 3D form in 3D space, the better you will deal with this 3D space, applying it to different directions and understanding it from different angles. So again, it was not that easy. So yeah, I kind of, in some places I spent a lot of time to figuring out how these forms are going to look, but in the end I like how it looks. It's still not a finish, so it definitely going to be pushed further. And as I said before, I probably will use this transformer as a separate piece, so it's going to be implemented in this particular illustration as a tertiary focus, but I want to still use this transformer in a separate project. So for instance, like just basically the separate character design, when we will work on this transformer more and actually will implement character into it. But this project is not going to be something serious, I guess, in terms of like if we are going to take it separately. It's just going to be for the sake of demonstrating the unique design that we did. It's just like for the sake of experimenting and trying something new, and yeah, learning new things. And I think in terms of a design, I kind of like it. So it's not perfect, I guess, like it has some flaws in it, but overall I like how it works. And the things that don't work, I will make them work when we are going to go into the 2D stage. So yeah, let's just continue to shape. We don't have that much time today, so we have in about an hour, so that means that we need to go straight into work. Let's get right into work, like dive in. So I will continue to shape up the hand, which is going to be a problem 100%, because again, the problem with, especially with this part of the hand, it needs to, it kind of rotates. So right here we actually have this crazy rotation, and because of this rotation, it's definitely going to be hard to create something organic looking and at the same time robot-like or tech-like. So first, of course, right after we will open the project, we need to turn on our projections and solve the problem of the ZBrush, unfortunately, which always present for some reason, is to resnapping our mesh to our projections into our mesh, because for some reason every time that I'm relaunching ZBrush with this project, it's replacing them, misplacing them for some reason, don't know why. So in order to not mistaken if we're going to work directly with this reference, we need to put things in order. So yeah, of course, design is kind of already laid out, but still, this design was laid out into 2D. And when we are going to implement this design into 3D, of course, we will change something to work better. But I think, actually, when I created this design in 3D, in 2D, I actually thought about how it's going to look in 2D, in 3D. So I think it's not going to be a problem. So again, we're going to start with separation of planes. At the end of the previous session, I actually make this a little bit thicker, because hand in this part needs to be thicker than this. It's still kind of I wish I could make it more thicker, but the problem is, if I will make it more thicker, then we were going to lose this silhouette, and I not necessarily want to lose it, so I will keep it. And maybe if it's not going to work, I will change something, we'll see. So let's just continue to separate our shapes and figure out how we're going to do it the best way. Because again, oh, okay. Yeah, the problem about this part of the hand, it's not going to be symmetrical at all. So, and because of this asymmetry, it's definitely going to throw me off a bit. So let's just depict the design that we did previously and see how it's going to look, and then we will change accordingly based on how it's going to look. Because for now, like, I don't know, we need to see how it looks in 3D in order to figure out, does it work. Okay, so ideally I would put this one in here. So the same, I guess, we will do with this one. Kinda need to create some similarity. So from the back, I guess we could, in some places, go with the symmetry. Again, this part is going to be the part that works with the function of this hand. It's going to work with the bending. So for that specific purpose, I created this separations, which we actually applied throughout the whole body as a repetitive design element. Right here, in the knees, or behind the knees, right here too. Yeah, don't, this is the wrong part. We actually works on this one, yeah. It got bad when it mirrored. That's why we need to use reseam, but the problem with reseam, we have too many polygons and points in here, like more than a million, and because of this rich symmetry, it's going to take probably days. I don't know, so we definitely, I want to leave this for the end of this project, especially in 3D. So yeah, just continue refining the hand. So yeah, the problem is now we actually have the outer side of the hand and inner side of the hand. And of course we need to design them because we don't have information, visual information, how these things are looking there. But this is going to be definitely something to solve in terms of a problem. We'll probably need to shift this part in order to work. Also suggesting some type of a symmetry in here. Definitely going to look a little bit differently from what we have in the reference, but still we still need to suggest these things. Let's see if I could connect them. Yes, it's actually right in the line. So again, ideally I would need to create some type of a sharp lines in here, or sharp angles, because one of the things about this design, yes, it has to be in some places like sharp angles because this is like supposedly hard surface, but at the same time the smooth lines needs to be present too, or curves, because this is semi-organic form, and like making decisions where to place particular elements for them to work in conjunction and separately, it's usually not that easy thing to do. Usually you probably work on a feel, so if it feels like it, you're placing it in a proper place. Again, I talked about what design is. It's just basically the ability of making personal choices. And of course, if you know the design basics is always a good thing, because knowing them you can manipulate these decisions better, but still not everything controlled by these design elements or the principles of design. There are some things that just go with the personal decisions. So yeah, this one actually don't work. Okay, let's just choose a smoothing sorry about that, valleys. Oh, wait a minute, to make this thing straighter. Oh no, this one, I want to redraw it. I want to make it better. Yeah, this transition is definitely problematic. The problem is when we are going to put transformer in a particular position, so basically making a hand gestures for him. So for instance, right here they're holding swords, and their hand is going to be rotated completely differently. That's why we need to understand how this form is going to look from every possible angle, in order for then in our mind rotate it properly and figure out how it's going to be rotated in this specific position with holding sword like this. So this is definitely going to be a challenging thing to do, but I think I will manage to do it either way. It's going to take some time, but I guess you just need to believe in yourself and your abilities that you actually can do this. This is a question. So we actually have a couple of lines that actually goes right away into the corners of this elbow. I guess we could allow ourselves this. Kind of looks normal. Okay, how about this one? Oh snap, yeah. Working with the side view is definitely going to be a problem, especially with the outer part of it, because I didn't establish it at all. So right here is just basically like the empty space in here, and we definitely need to work with this empty space. But before we are going to work with something that we don't know how it's going to look, we need to establish things that we know how it's going to look. So again, work on something that you know, and it helps you answer the questions about something that you don't sure about or don't know. Usually this is the way to start. You need to start working at least at something that you know, or at least sure of. Okay, and how this transition is going to go there next. Okay, for instance, again, by creating these type of like transitioning lines, I want to accentuate the rotation of the hand. And usually in order to do this properly, we need to definitely establish some type of, I don't know. So for instance, this is the inner side of the hand rotated in this direction. It's inside. And this one is outside of the hand. Outer side of the hand. And we need to establish some type of like depictions where these things actually transition into this thing. I don't know how to properly call it though. Like it's just like a piece of an armor. I don't know. It's like part of the glove, but it's not. So the same we need to establish for this part, because this is really important. So I guess considering design elements, we definitely need to create something that could work with both angles and help with this movement. But at the same time, it has to make sense, and it's part of me. So the things that happen here kind of make sense. So if he's going to rotate this hand right there, which kind of has to be a rest position. So yeah, with working with this type of rotation, we need to consider the rest position and the position of, I don't know, like 90 degrees position and 180 degrees position. Right now this hand, it's not in a rest position. Rest position would be just like open palm. But since it's from the side, now this hand actually rotated in the position of 90 degrees. Oh snap, this is hard. So because of this because this is 90 degrees, and this design works best for a rest position, I think that's why it doesn't work. Yeah, we need to misplace this thing. So I need to consider not the rest position, but actually this type of rotation. Maybe I need to rotate hand in the rest position. It's going to be much more easier for me to figure it out, because it's not going to be a look in terms of a pose, because the reason why this pose looked pretty cool because we have this rotated position, but still these designs are worked best for the rest position. We could imply that Transformer has the ability to rotate this hand around in unlimited rotation, because come on, he's not human, but I would rather stick to a human rotation, which kind of makes things much harder to depict, but at the same time it's a good challenge, because of course I'm going to work with the human form pretty soon. Basically, after I will end this project, I will go right away into working with the human form, and we definitely need to get a practice in it. So yeah, right now I was just going to think how the best way to showcase it. So sorry if it's going to be too much of rotations. I need to just see this from all possible angles, figure out how I'm going to deal with this problem, because this is something that I want to solve appropriately, or properly. So yeah, I kind of like how the top of the hand looks. It looks pretty cool. It's pretty close to the human anatomy. It suggests human anatomy. So, and the same, but again, it's much more easier because this part usually doesn't rotate that much. Slight rotations in muscles, of course, presence, but the bone itself stays. It rotates only in this position. So that's why it kind of makes things a little bit harder for this thing, because right here we kind of undergo any changes. So rotation goes there, and there's a limit of this rotation. We have a rest position, which is basically the open palm. And again, for the rest position, this one works perfectly. But for 90 degrees rotation, it doesn't. Okay, let's think. So if I will rotate this hand, just only this part of the hand, it's going to go into the rest position. So like open palm, the inner side of the hand is going to be shown here, inner side of the hand is going to be here, and outer side of the hand is going to be here. So basically this part needs to be in the back. So that means that rotation goes there. So to put this in resting position, we need to go with 90 degrees rotation in here. If we want to put it into the full extent of rotation, we need to rotate it in here, and now it's going to be rotated in 180 degrees. By the way, yeah, let's just save. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I didn't work on it in previous session, because I knew that I will struggle with it, and I'm probably not going to solve this problem throughout the session either, because it's kinda problematic. Because again, when I draw it in 2D, I considered the fact that this thing is going to be rotated, but I kinda designed this one for the rest position and this one for the rotation position, and they don't work. And for instance, if we are going to rotate this thing back, or at least put it in the rest position, this thing is just going to be wrapping around the whole form, which is not working. Visually, it's not pleasant. So I have two choices. Either I need to rotate this one and keep this design like this, because this is the best way for me to showcase this design. Basically put this hand in, at least rotationally, in the rest position, or resting position. Or try to redo design in here for this specific rotation, which is going to be much painful, and I definitely will mix things along the way. It's not going to be a good thing, because again, I already solved most of the things for this type of thing and for the rest position, and now I need to rebuild it completely. I need to reshape, for that I would need to reshape the whole hand. Okay, let's stop looking at it and start trying. So let's try to select this part. First, let's just choose a lasso. Be careful. Choose a particular part that we want to move or rotate. And let's actually rotate it into the rest position. It's not going to look that cool, but again, for the sake of design, I think I need this. Okay, let's just try to rotate. What? So I forget again how to properly do it. Yeah, we need to deselect this part of the hand, or the opposite. Select it. And we need to snap it to the proper place. Lock it, or unlock it. Move in the place of rotation, supposed rotation. By the way, let's just quickly go through the couple of phrases. So I call it pronation and supination, but I'm not sure if I'm actually calling properly, so let's just quickly check this out. So pronation, this basically works in the human. Yeah, so supinated position, it's the position that I'm actually wants to work with now. So supinated position is just basically the rest position, and pronated position is the position when this part of the hand, the outer part of the hand, is facing us in here. So that makes these supposed human bones intersect. So we need to suggest this thing in here. So let's try. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, by the way, what this thing does? Set orientation to unlock. I was just slightly placing it in the proper position. So most of the time rotation happens only from the one side, but since we're not working with the specific bones, I think, no, actually I think it would be a good idea to put this rotation the right way. Let's just try different things and see how it's going to look much more realistically from where. So first let's try to rotate this one. Okay, it definitely breaks everything. Yeah, by the way, let's just smooth this thing out. I completely forgot what combination of keys smooth out the mask. Shrink the mask, grow mask. I actually had here the option of blurring the mask and growing the mask. Let's just blur the mask as far as possible to create a smoother rotation. Place it in here. Nope. Unlock it. Place it in here. This is a good practice of actually getting used to the gizmo tool in the new versions of ZBrush, because again, this is something that in this program was added only in this version, and it's pretty unfamiliar. Although if you work with 3D programs, it should be familiar, but still it works a little bit differently with slight changes. Yeah, it definitely kills everything. I guess I need to establish rotation higher. I hope I will solve this problem throughout the session, because if not, I'm just going to spend time on trying and it's not going to be anything in the end. But either way, this is the part of the process. And since I'm working on this project live without spending on it time outside of the streams, I think this is actually good. So yeah, I guess we could rotate it in this position. Let's just move this out. Blur, 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 blur. I guess that's it. Getting. At some point, it's just going to stop smoothing. Go back into the rotation. Unlock it again. Put it somewhere here. And let's just try different. Yeah, this is definitely bad. This is probably not going to work either, but let's try. Oh yeah. So it means that we need to place it as close as possible to this thing. Probably somewhere in the center. Okay, let's try this one. I guess it just needs to be in the center overall. Lock and move. We could get rid of this like craziness by just dynameshing and slightly changing, adding shapes. It's not a problem, but it's better than redo the whole thing. Let's just make sure that we got the right dynamic and placement. In case we want to take it back, we have this side as a reserve, so it's not a problem. Okay, so now we need to reply, get rid of the mask and apply Dynamesh. And let's just add clay buildup every missing pieces. Right now it works definitely broken. But not for the long. It's pretty easily corrected. Pretty easily corrected. Okay. Oh no, I messed up. I actually had to rotate it differently. So right now this hand is just basically broken. Aww. Yeah, we need for this thing actually face us. And this thing has to go to the back. Re-rotate it. So let us re-rotate it to the different side. Yeah, something like this. By the way, usually this type of rotation doesn't go over like completely 180 degrees. It depends on how flexible human body is, particular human body. I guess it slightly angled. Angled. Okay, move it aside. A little bit of a tilt. So let's assume that this transformer is making a yoga hand. I don't know. Supposedly, it's the only way how I could explain this one. Again, it's not going to look good in the pose, but we do it for the sake of a design. So understanding the design, so I kind of need to disregard this. Yeah, we could actually make it more rotated in there, but since I guess I'm not going to. Let's just first shape it up properly, and then if I will feel that if it's going to look bad, I will make changes. Reshaping things. Okay, now it's better. Now I actually understand how this design has to go. That's the whole reason why I need this rotation, because I need this rotation to figure out how to properly design this hand. So yeah, when you're designing hands, especially when they're complex as the Transformers hands, I guess you need to think about their positioning, like the base positioning. Unless you are designing them right away in the particular pose, but even then you need to think what rest position for this hand and so basically what the supination position and pronation position, how they look, in order to understand how it properly is going to be rotated. Because again, there's a bunch of changes, and this is probably most of the hardest part of the human anatomy. Like actually, I don't have problems with understanding the rest of the human anatomy, but this part of the human anatomy for me is most confusing. And in theory I understand it, but in practice it's still so hard to make it right. It's and you're usually just doing it by eye without overthinking, but it's not always works. Okay, so now this rotation is not going to be present that much. I need to get rid of these bumps. So the closer hand goes from this side to the hand itself, smaller it gets, and it kind of gets a little bit flatter. It's just the human anatomy. Again, knowing the human anatomy, or at least understanding it on at least basic level, it's so helpful with designs. You can basically design everything, from organic to non-organic creatures, animals, because anatomy is everything. it actually helps you a lot. Still considering, I don't like that I like dynamic in here, but let's just keep it for now. So I guess it's time to Dynamesh. So now if I will save, I will lose the progress. Now I need to think about this. Again, I have the example from the right, and this example doesn't work, for me at least. I guess we will go with this one, and I just basically will save. I don't want to create a separate project for it. I don't want to overrun with a bunch of versions. Again, we have it in this site. That means that from now on we're not going to work with the mirroring, at least for the hand, because it's not going to work. There's different shapes on both sides. It's just going to be it's going to mess up every form from the right. So first thing that we need to do is of course shape up the hand properly. Figuring out the width in here, understand how it's going to look from every side. By the way, the problem that I'm starting to figure out now that this hand is too skitty bitty skip. Too thick, it needs to be bigger or wider. For some reason before I didn't understand this, but now it's pretty obvious, because now we actually put it in the proper position that for our brain is much more clear to read, I guess. And that's why it became obvious that it needs to change. And this one. I'm making it a little bit wider, just to create this interesting dynamic. By the way, we make this hand bigger by itself. It's much bigger than it was in the original. Yeah, this kind of work, although probably slightly big. Yeah. So the previous one definitely was like a child hand, so this is too much, and this is close to something real. But again, it's a transformer. It has to have, or he has to have, like massive hands, I guess. So if they are going to be slightly bigger, it's actually will benefit us. So let's just keep it for this. Wait. Let's smooth out the mask to make this transition a little bit more smoother. Sorry about that. So yeah, guess that could work. And when I'm making this width, I'm considering this part of the hand, not the armor, because armor is of course much bigger and it's not fitting the hand itself, but this part of the hand is what I need to consider. So maybe we even could make it wider. So yeah, this actually looks pretty close to the big Transformer's hand. Of course it makes the armor part of this hand, or the bigger, but at least it kind of works. Oh, by the way, we're almost out of the time. Just kind of a shame. I wanted to manage to do more for today, but unfortunately. But either way, the cool thing is I kind of solved a pretty big issue, and if I would ignore this issue, or it would definitely bit me from the back, like in the future. So this is a good thing when you're solving these issues in the early stages, because by ignoring them at the beginning, they will arise either way. You can't like run from them. If these are problems prominent or present at the beginning stages of your project, they're not going to fade away. You need to solve them at one point. So yeah, I had a problem that I need to address in here, and I addressed it and I solved it. So that means that we need to redesign this thing completely, because it doesn't work for this type of rotation. And I guess we are going to do this in the next session, but for this session I want to end on just basically shaping this hand in much more dynamic position. And one of the ways to do this is to slightly rotate this part, because it feels strange, too stiff. It needs to go a little bit, I don't know. It has to have some type of a tilt in here. It's not straight. It could look like this if this transformers was flexible, like for instance gymnasts are. So yeah, they're kind of already over-rotating their head, or extra flexibility. But for the transformer, this extra flexibility doesn't work. It looks like he's just broken his hand, so we need to address it. So let's just select the problematic area. Yeah, I guess this is the problematic area. Smooth it out. Maybe even higher, slightly higher. Exactly that. And ready to do yeah. And what we are going to do is that we need to smooth out the mask. Yeah, I definitely need to go into the ZBrush settings or shortcuts guide and looked it up, the shortcuts for these, because I definitely remember shortcuts for the blurring mask and sharpening mask, and they're pretty easy. Like, you need to push a couple of buttons to do this, but I actually don't remember how it works. So maybe yeah, like this. So you actually need to click not in the empty canvas but in here. So control click 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 click, it softens the mask, and control alt click 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 does the opposite. Sharpens it. So yeah, my muscle memory didn't, how do you properly say it? Let's find out how this word called. Actually, no. Whatever. So yeah, my muscle memory was right. Was right. I actually pressed these buttons, but the difference was I pressed them in the empty space. But for them to work, they need to be pressed on the mesh itself to soften the mask or sharpen the mask. Again, control, hold left click, 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 or just click, yeah. As it softens the mask, and control alt, click, 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 it just sharpens the mask. As I said before, in order to learn how to use the brush, you don't need to learn it from ground up. Like, usually you will need to use in ZBrush a couple of things in here, especially when it comes down like just for the 2D artist, for the sake of creating and exploring designs. Of course, if you are going to become a sculptor, like professional sculptor, or just going to sculpt for games or for some type of features, films, that way, of course, you need to learn ZBrush in a much more deeper way. You need to understand how zero measure works. You need to understand how maps displacement maps works, some texturing, UV mapping, body painting probably, and bunch of other stuff. But kind of for the basic needs of just learning how to sculpt, it's pretty easy. You just need to understand what brush does what, understand what subtools are and how they work, and figure out basic things like, for instance, transposing, rotating, and yeah, moving. It's not going to take that much time, and at least a week of adjusting to it. Okay, so what I wanted to do is to rotate this thing, and this is definitely going to be the last thing that we're going to do in this one. I'm just placing it in the proper way and slightly rotating it. So yeah, like this. So this is the only thing that I needed. So this slight rotation now actually creates much more realistic looking hand. So now this hand is not overbent like it was previously, because come on, maybe this is actually too much. I just go with something. So this is the original, and let's just make it something like this. This thing needs to be pretty straight. Right here I guess I will add a bit more muscles. For now it kind of works exactly that. Yeah, the last thing that I will do is just probably, maybe we'll need to rotate it a little bit in here. So this rotation is definitely present in here. Again, thinking about dynamic. No! It's broken. Yeah, slide rotations. I guess this one works fine. Okay, cool. Applying mask, okay, applying Dynamesh, saving. Let's turn off this thing, because for the hand I'm not going to use it mostly, and for the lower part of the arm. So yeah, basically what I'm going to do next session, and I'm going to shape up this, figure out how to properly place the design elements, of course considering the human anatomy, because like for instance in human anatomy we have transitions like this, so I definitely need to put something similar in here. And then when they are going to rotate, they are going to slightly change and rotate like this. If in there, oh wait a minute, rotation doesn't work in here. It goes only like this. So this is basically the supinated position of the hand, or the rest position, and pronated position is if we are going to rotate it 100 degrees like this. So yeah, I kind of want to erase these things, don't like how they look. Definitely need to figure out how to design them properly next session or part. Look at my, I'm kind of looking at my hand and trying to figure out, maybe I lost something. Maybe I am. I'll just put slight suggestions of these muscles if they're present here. Yeah, now I definitely have a better vision how to deal with this hand, because before that, like with this thing, I just get confused. So okay, I'm seeing this one as something that's supposed to be inside, but it's not inside, but it's from the front or from the side. So this thing from the side, and it's so confusing that, because when I designed it, I didn't consider the rest position. So every time that you need to create a flat design, you need to right away think in what type of position you will depict this part of the hand or arm, either from the supinated position, which is the rest position, or from the pronated position, which is again the same position but rotated backwards. Of course, elbow is always stays here. But the only thing that changed is this thing. It just basically rotates in there. Or no, wait a minute. No, I messed up actually. No, actually the right way. So inside. You can rotate outside. So it works inside. So this thing goes inside. Does it look like an arrow? Hope it does. It just rotates around until it's going to be pronated. Again, well, when pronation happens, so for now, bones are, yeah, for now, these bones looking somewhat like this. So one bone here and one bone here. This is just basically the rest position. When we are going to rotate it 100 degrees, 180 degrees, a little bit less, but still, let's just round up things. They're going to change. So this thing is going to be here, and this thing is going to be here. Basically, this one stands always in one place, and this one is rotates. And actually, hand is going to change in direction a little bit, so it's not going to be straight. It's actually going to be placed a little bit right here. So yeah, again, as I said before, this is the most the hardest part of the human anatomy, at least for me, and we will cover it in the future sessions, I guess, not once but multiple times, and we will talk about it in much more deeper ways and make more sense from it. But at least like small chunks of information will still at least make us aware that these things are present and that we need to work on them. The rest is just trying to solve particular problems. Yeah, I kind of like how the overall shape looks. I still would probably rotate it a little bit like in there, so slight rotation or change, I don't know, but it's more than enough in order to understand how the design in here is going to look. So yeah, I planned to finish this one and much more on weekends, but unfortunately I didn't manage to do so because I spent a lot of time in previous session working on this shoulder and on the hand, and that was not easy thing to do because again we didn't establish a good base for the shoulder, and because of this I spent too much time on it. And also I spent too much time, almost 2 sessions, on dealing with this thing because again it was badly established base. And this thing basically from this project I will definitely learn that I need to work on a solid base better before jumping into details. So the forcing process or progress, it's always a bit bad thing, because that way you will then spend even more time by like correcting your mistakes, and this is just basically what's happened. And I still managed to solve these problems, and it's kind of a cool thing for the experience, because we need to learn how to solve problems from worst case scenarios, which is kind of cool thing that you can do this still. But the smarter would be not just go into these problems for the first time, not making these problems become a problem, I would say. And in order to do that, I guess we need to think ahead. We need to plan how things are going to work, how things are going to look, and actually gain experience in working with them. And after some time, I guess we will know what decision is the right decision. So this 1, 2 out there. Definitely needs to be slightly inside. Again, we will work on the shaping up this thing in the later session. We can already we're not gone over time, but I guess we're done for today. Let's just slowly wrap up this session. Or I don't know still how to properly call these things. Should I call them sessions or should I call them parts? Because like my MTG study thing, I call them sessions, but here, I don't know, it's not sessions per se, but at the same time they are. It's just like creative sessions. Maybe I need to call them creative sessions. We'll see. Yeah, there's a lot of work to shape up this thing properly before we're going into details. So yeah, let's just leave it for the next part. So yeah, on that note, I guess we will end this session. We didn't manage to do that much, but still the main thing that we solved a lot of problems that definitely will arise in the super near future, and by solving them it's going to be easier to deal with the complexities of the different angles and different point of views and different perspective distortions or whatever, and of course depicting designs in these particular angles. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Have a nice day or night, and see you in the next part. Bye bye.